So we'll be going to the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 11. One of my favorite verses in the Bible. And we will meditate from that based on that verse on a subject titled Eternity in Human Heart. Eternity in Human Heart. Amen. This is not a real Pentecostal message, a fiery shouting message. This will be more like a philosophical contemplation on an extremely serious subject that we all have to face at one time or another in our own life. So come along with me, put your thinking cap on, and we will think on this subject together. Amen? All right, let's turn to the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 11, and then we will continue with the message. Amen. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Also, he has put eternity in their hearts, except that no one can find out the work that God does from the beginning to end. We are uneducated people today. Even common man is very educated compared to our previous generations because of all the media outlets we have available to us at our disposal in this day and age. When you travel to the different countries of the world, you will be amazed at the cable channels available even in remote villages of the world. And because of that, there is a common dispensation of knowledge happening all across the world. The gap between the people who knew things and people who did not know things are narrowing, and which is a great thing. So together we can move on into greater knowledge, level of knowledge. And one of the things that the scientist has helped us to know lately, especially after launching the Hubble telescope, which allowed the guesswork out of the scientific calculations and scientific theories about the universe, and which allowed the scientists to peer at the farthest distances of the universe. It has given us a completely different picture about universe. Now you have to understand that I told you this will be a little philosophical in a structure, this message this morning, so you have to come along with me. Because every time you look deeper into the universe, actually you are looking into the past. When the scientists tell you that that particular star is 11 billion light years away from Earth, what basically he's telling you is that the light you just saw in the telescope started from that star 11 billion years ago. It took 11 billion years for the light to get here. What does that mean? That means you're looking back into the past 11 billion years ago. So the tragedy of that is that you don't know what happened to that star today. That star may not be there today. It may have completely collapsed. And you wouldn't know if the star collapsed and became a red dwarf or something. You wouldn't know until another 11 billion years later in the future, because the light takes 11 billion years to get here. So it's a quagmire to think in terms of time and space, which Einstein introduced us to, okay? Now, without being carried away in the science, let me try to limit myself to a level where we can all follow easily. What the scientists tell us today is that they think in terms of universe being the ultimate reality, all right? Carl Sagan, who was the astronomer in Columbia University right here in New York, said the universe is all there was, all there is, and all there will be. Which basically what he's saying is the universe is the ultimate reality. When you look at universe as the ultimate reality, then you have to think in terms of time. You have to link time and space together, and in a time-space continuum, in order to understand what is happening in this universe. And if the universe is the ultimate reality, then what happens is, the universe started somewhere, and they say it started with the Big Bang theory, at the Big Bang, and then matter came into existence. So what happened to the universe? What was universe before matter came into existence? All the stars sprouted out, and the galaxies were eventually formed, and the constellations, everything that we see in the universe today came into existence. What was universe before that? The ultimate answer is universe was an empty universe. There was nothing there. How can an empty universe exist? It's another question for philosophers, but let's leave that alone for this morning. So if you follow that line of thought, what happens is the story of the universe begins with an empty universe, and then out of that empty universe, matter comes into existence, and eventually galaxies are formed. A galaxy called Milky Way is formed, and right in the middle of that galaxy, a star called Sun is formed, and around that Sun, 9 little planets are rotating, and one of the planets called Earth is born. And then they tell us that Earth was void at the beginning, and eventually through multiple millions of years of evolutionary process, life came into existence out of nothing, out of this messy chemical soup. Life emerged, and then life went through evolution, and eventually we are here. And that's the story they tell us. But the problem is not that. The problem is what happens from here on. They will tell you the world is changing. That today all we hear about is global warming. And because of global warming, eventually, things will die out. Already right before our eyes, plants are dying out, birds are dying out, animal species are dying out. Slowly, slowly, all these things will die out, and eventually human race also will die out, they tell us. And then what? Then they say that the sun will change, and the sun will, get larger and larger, and as it gets larger and larger, Earth will get hotter and hotter, and all the water on Earth will be evaporated, and Earth will be a completely void planet, just like Mars today or Venus today. And then what? Then eventually say that the sun will continue to expand, and eventually will swallow up all the inner planets, and then there will be no more Earth. And then what? Then they say the sun also will die out. And then what? They say in this entire galaxy called Milky Way is slowly being pulled in by a huge constellation of galaxies called Andromeda. And even though Milky Way itself has more than 100 billion stars in it, you can imagine the weight of that. But the gravity of this constellation is so great that it is pulling this whole galaxy of Milky Way towards Andromeda, and eventually it will merge with Andromeda and become one galaxy, one huge super galaxy. And then what? They say all the stars in this galaxy will begin to die out one by one. And then what? Then all the matter will disappear, and the universe will be empty again. And then what? The cycle will be repeated over eons. That's a story that scientists tell us. But unfortunately, we are not here this morning as science students. We are here as not proponents of evolutionary process or evolutionary worldview. We are here as Christians. But when you are a Christian, you have to look at things differently. Is that the truth? Is that the ultimate truth? Are they telling us the truth? Is that the way things are going to play out in human history? Forget about human history. Humans will be God according to them. In the history of the universe? No. The Bible tells us a completely different story. Completely different story. And the biblical view of the universe is this. It was never empty to begin with. God is the beginning of all things, not universe. God was always there, and God is there always, and God will be there always. And it is God who created matter. So if you go back into history to the very beginning of the universe, what you end up with is God, not matter, not an empty universe. What you end up with is God. Amen? And because once God started creating matter, God created it with the purpose of keeping the matter in the universe. And the Bible tells us very clearly, this universe can never go back to a time when there is no matter.